What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna head underwater and we're gonna talk all about the Texas rig and we're gonna look at baits pegged Texas rig versus unpegged. So check it out, we'll see you underwater. All right everybody, so let's dive in. The first bait we have Texas rigged here is pegged, and it is a Googan Baits Bandito Bug. I love a pegged Texas rig when I'm fishing heavy cover, flipping and punching, or I want that bait to be close to the bottom. So in super cold water, when I want that bait on the bottom, I am definitely going to peg this bait. Now, the thing that makes the Googan Bait Bandito Bug one of my favorite rigs to flip and pitch and a Texas rig is the fact that it's got, one, a great profile. Two, it's got really nice action on those flapping crawls. It really gives a good bluegill big profile to a bait, but it's not overpowering because it is skinny. It does a good job of falling there. You can see it really looks like a bluegill swimming down to the bottom. I really like it in heavy cover. It's got a lot of really nice colors, and I really like the wide profile with the skinny nature of the bait. It does a really good job getting bit. You can see Scott Martin just won a tournament in Florida on this bait. It's a killer. If you haven't thrown the Bandito Bug Texas rig, give it a shot. Now here's your direct comparison. Bandito Bug on a free sliding weight. And what you can see is when you're fishing bigger swaths of water or you're covering more water with the Texas rig, unpegged most of the time is better. On a clean bottom, unpegged is going to be better because it has that slower fall. It has that more outlined and progressive kind of slow glide to the bottom where it kind of mills around on the bottom. It just does a better job in open water. If I'm fishing deeper, most of the time I'm fishing an unpegged Texas rig simply because I want to judge the fall rate of that bait. And I want to give that bait time to glide down to the bottom to settle differently. The warmer the water, generally speaking, is an unpegged Texas rig for me. Bandito Bug does a fantastic job of that nice, smooth gliding action that we want to. I really like this bait early in the spring, all the way up through the spawn, to be on, that unpegged Texas rig most of the time in open water. Next up here, we have my personal favorite bait, which is the Berkley Pit Boss. And I really enjoy the Pit Boss here. You can see, once again, if it's pegged, it's tight to the bottom, right? If you have fish laying belly on the bottom, Texas rig is the way to go. If you have heavy cover that you want that complete package to stay compact, that also is the way to go. That Texas rig, when it's pegged, is going to hold that bait tighter to the bottom. It's going to be to when you're shaking that rod tip and moving it around. If you have a lot of debris in the water, the pegged Texas rig is also better most times because it's just going to come through stuff cleaner, if you will. So if I'm like flipping a dock or pad field, I'm probably going to peg that because of the cover that I'm throwing it into. Here's your direct comparison, unpegged. This bait excels for me unpegged because I'm throwing it in 15-20 feet of water along deep grass edges, and there's getting 4 or 5 feet of bow in that line from that weight, right? And that unpegged profile, if you will, of this bait is a killer because it looks just like a sunfish falling down to the bottom. It looks like something that those bass are going to eat, and it has that subtle reaction of turning around and facing the weight most of the time, and that turnaround on this bait is really going to make bass interested. Now, when I fish this bait in deeper water, it's always unpegged. It's just an advantage. I feel like I'm giving away a secret here. If you fish this in weed lines in 8 to 10 to 12 feet of water and you fish it unpegged, you're going to smash the bass. They just can't stay off of it, and it's a great way to throw that lure. Here's another one that I like to do that with. This is the Biospawn Baits Bile Craw, and I really like this bait when I'm flipping heavy cover. I like the black and blue. I like the green with red flake. It's a very reactive bait. It's a very active bait. Once again, if I am fishing that heavy cover scenario, let's say that I have a bunch of matted over grass and I want to flip that grass. This is an excellent bait to do that with that Texas rig pegged weight. You can get to an ounce and a half weight to punch through some of that stuff. You can also take this bait and skip it through wood, through cover. It's going to come through there very well. It's a very slick bait. There's not a lot of appendages. It's sleek and slim, you can see, which I like. This is probably the third bait that I'm picking up behind the Bandito Bug and behind the Pit Boss, but it is a very good bait. It's a niche bait. I like it a lot on a Carolina rig as well. Here you can see unpegged. You get that slow gliding action. You get the total change of how that bait looks in the water and how it kind of slows everything down, right? A lot of times when you're fishing new bodies of water and you know you're around fish, but you can't get them to bite, unpegging that lure will take it a long ways into being where you want it to be because it gives the fish more time to react to that. It's also a more natural fall. If you really, really focus in on what that bait really looks like there, when it's not directly tied to that weight, it's got that slower gliding action, and sometimes that's what fish want, right? Sometimes they don't want a super reactive. Sometimes they want that lethargic bait, especially on high, clear, sunny days. They don't want that dead up reaction. Sometimes you got to leave it in their face for a little bit. Here is, once again, when I'm fishing the heaviest, darkest, deepest cover, here's the bait that I'm picking up. It is the Missile Baits D-Bomb, and I really like this bait for two reasons. One, profile. This is a perfect profile for a baby sunfish in cover. I really enjoy this bait as a trailer on chatterbaits. This is a go-to flipping and pitching bait. You can cut this bait in half and put it on a drop shot, and it works. But once again, here we see it when it's tied to that pegged Texas rig. It's really going to be very hyper reactive. It's very quick to respond. You know, on fluorocarbon line with a tungsten weight, you're going to feel everything. It excels on, you know, keeping that bait on the bottom. And then once again, here you see that unpegged version. It's got a nice flap. It's got a nice flow on it. I really, really, really enjoy the profile of this bait. It just looks like a sunfish. I can't tell you the amount of fish that I've caught behind guys flipping this bait who are flipping a cross style bait or a creature style bait. This one for me is a very in between, right? It can have that craw profile, but it has that bluegill profile to me. It has those ribs in it. There's awesome colors in this bait. Missile baits are amazing, right? I really enjoy them. But this bait is one that I love because of its versatility, right? In baits that are versatile, that can do many things, find a place in my rotation more than baits that are good at one specific thing, because we're anglers. We already spend too much money on everything. I want baits that are really going to deliver for me and do multiple things well, right? Here is the power bait Gilly. Now, this bait is a new bait in my arsenal. I picked up these in the late fall last year. I've really experimented with them over the winter. I've looked at them a lot in different situations, and I caught some big bass last fall throwing this bait. This bait's going to excel in bed fishing. Rigged this way, it's also going to excel in flipping treetops or flipping underwater laydowns, because one, it looks like a dead or dying bluegill on a slow fall, but on a fast fall, it kind of looks like a bluegill that's hurt or injured, that's trying to figure out, you know, what it's doing before it gets destroyed. And I really like the subtle action of this bait. I like the photorealism of the Berkley Gilly. It's a fantastic looking bait. Underwater, it's got that great swim. If you watched the swim bait video last year, I figured out how to rig these to swim straight. Now, I'm going to be honest here. I'm probably going to fish this bait as an unpegged Texas rig 100% of the time if I'm fishing it that way. This slow glide and kind of death fall and rattle that it has with that flutter kick up there at the end is going to elicit some monster strikes from bass, especially when bluegill are on the beds, especially when fish are shallow around cover. They hate bluegill with a passion. They're going to inhale this bait. Right? Fishing it on that extra wide gap hook here allows it freedom of movement, and the unpegged nature of this bait looks really, really, really good. So whenever bass are feeding on bluegill, I'm going to flip this into 8 or 9 foot weed holes, watch it get demolished by bass who are going to come out of there and just eat a free meal. Anytime there's a wounded bluegill, it's not going to last long in the wild, right? Those bass are going to hit it, and some of your biggest bass in the system are going to hit this bait because of how real it looks, how good it falls, and what it's doing. You got a lot out of underwater footage. Let's talk about how we set up our Texas rig here for fishing up here in the northern Midwest. All right, guys, so when I'm fishing the northern Midwest, I'm usually fishing fluorocarbon line. I'm fishing brass and glass. I'm fishing a Woo tungsten flipping weight. I'm always fishing a glass bead. I just get a lot more bites on that glass bead. That's why I run it like that. I'm generally fishing an offset extra wide gap hook. I like Owner. You can fish a straight shank if you want to. I like the way that it sets up like that on that Texas rig. Now, that usually is the way that I am setting up my bait, and most of the time, this is how I fish it. If I want to peg that bait, I'm going to use a bobber stop here that goes on the line. You slide it down, and literally you're just gonna peg that weight off just like that, and that way you have a more compact presentation there with that peg and that weight and that bead. That's generally how I fish the Texas rig up here. If I'm fishing really heavy cover, I'm going to move to a straight shank flipping hook, but I have a lot of confidence in this setup right here. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed getting underwater with us today, looking at pegged versus unpegged Texas rig, answering a lot of questions that have been popping up in the comments. If you like what the channel's doing, give us a like, give us a subscribe. Guys, we're pushing out a lot of content right now. We got a lot of things, exciting things planned. So let us know in the comment section what you want to see, what lures, what techniques, all kinds of different stuff. We got a lot of good ideas. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. We'll see you next time.